The sun hung low over the village of Shravasti, its golden rays painting the earth in soft, warm hues. Disciples gathered beneath the sprawling Bodhi tree, their gazes filled with silent questions and quiet desperation. The air was thick with an unspoken yearning, a hunger for clarity, a thirst for peace. The Buddha sat in serene stillness, his presence exuding an unmatched calm that enveloped the assembly. One disciple, younger than most, hesitated before stepping forward, his voice trembling slightly. "Master," he began, "why do I feel like I am never enough? No matter how much I strive." The Buddha opened his eyes slowly, his gaze gentle yet piercing, as if he could see the depths of the young man's soul. "Come closer," the Buddha said, gesturing for the disciple to sit at his feet. The disciple obeyed, his hands clasped tightly together as he awaited the master's wisdom. The other disciples leaned forward, their attention captured by the question that resonated with all of them. The Buddha spoke, his voice calm and measured, each word carrying the weight of 1,000 truths. "The feeling of inadequacy is a seed sown by illusion," he said. "It grows in the soil of comparison, watered by the rains of worldly desires." He paused, allowing the words to settle, to seep into the hearts of his listeners. "Imagine," the Buddha continued, "a bird in a vast forest, doubting its own wings because it cannot swim like the fish below." The grove seemed to breathe with us as I spoke again. "Let me share with you a story from my youth, one that might guide your reflections today." The disciples leaned forward, their anticipation palpable, as I began to recount an episode from my early years in Kapilavastu. The Buddha nodded, a faint smile gracing his lips. "Precisely. Yet the bird wastes its life trying to become what it was never meant to be," he said. "In doing so, it forgets the joy of flight, the freedom of soaring through the skies." The Buddha picked up a small pebble from the ground, holding it between his fingers for all to see. "Consider this pebble," he said. "It does not lament its smallness, nor does it envy the mountains towering above. Yet, it plays its part in the grand tapestry of existence. It lies content, at peace, knowing it is enough." The young disciple stared at the pebble, his eyes reflecting a mix of wonder and introspection. "But Master," another disciple interjected, her voice tinged with hesitance, "how can we silence the world when it tells us we are lacking?" The Buddha turned to her, his expression unchanged, serene yet profound. "The world will always speak, always demand, always measure," the Buddha said. "But its scales are unbalanced, its measures flawed, for they are born of ignorance and attachment." He placed the pebble gently on the ground and gestured toward the flowing stream nearby. "Look at the stream," he said, his tone inviting them to observe closely. "It flows freely, neither rushing to impress the rocks it passes nor hesitating to nourish the roots it encounters. It simply is, complete in its essence, fulfilling its purpose without seeking validation." The disciples turned their gaze to the stream, its clear waters dancing over stones, creating ripples that glistened in the sunlight. A hushed awe fell over the group, the metaphor resonating deeply within them. The Buddha stood, his movements slow and deliberate, and walked toward the stream. Yet, when approached with humility and the intent to grow together, it can be a path to wisdom and connection. I gestured toward the ancient trees that encircled us, their roots entwined beneath the soil, unseen yet inseparable. "This water does not cling to my hands, nor does it resist its path," he said. "It embraces impermanence, understanding that its journey is enough, that its existence is enough." Impermanence awakens us to mindfulness, the Buddha declared. It teaches us to savor each fleeting moment, holding nothing in excess. Your heart feels heavy because it clings to illusions, to falsehoods that promise fulfillment but deliver emptiness, he said. Release these illusions. The Buddha continued, and you will find that the weight dissipates, leaving behind a lightness, a freedom. He stood, his posture straight yet unburdened, and turned to face his disciples, his expression one of quiet conviction. You are like the river, complete in your flow, even as you bend, even as you change, he said. Do not measure your worth by the fleeting standards of the world, for they are as impermanent as the clouds in the sky. The disciples nodded slowly, their hearts stirred by the wisdom that seemed both simple and profound. The young disciple bowed deeply, his forehead touching the earth, a gesture of gratitude and reverence. Thank you, Master, he said, his voice steady now, filled with a newfound clarity. Each of you is both teacher and student, both unique and inseparable from the whole. Let your competition be like the dance of the waves, rising and falling together, each movement enriching the ocean of wisdom. You are not incomplete, you are not lacking. You are enough, always enough. The disciples sat in silence, the words echoing in their minds, their hearts swelling with a sense of peace they had not known before. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the village, the disciples remained seated, their eyes fixed on the Buddha. They knew they had received not just an answer but a truth that would guide them for the rest of their lives. The Buddha returned to his seat beneath the Bodhi tree, his eyes closing once more as he entered into meditation. The disciples watched him, their minds quieted, their hearts unburdened, their spirits uplifted, and as the first stars appeared in the evening sky, the village of Shravasti seemed to exhale, its breath mingling with the newfound tranquility that enveloped the disciples. The teachings of the Buddha were not mere words but seeds planted in their souls, destined to grow and bear the fruit of liberation. Another day, another journey. The Buddha and his disciples reached the vibrant city of Vaishali. Filled with ceaseless activity, people moved through the streets, their faces displaying a mix of joy, worry, and ambition. The Buddha sat near the market square, observing the passing crowd with calm detachment, his aura drawing his disciples close. One of the disciples stepped forward hesitantly, her gaze filled with turmoil. Master, she said softly, why do we seek approval yet find no peace in it? The Buddha turned his head slightly, his serene eyes meeting hers with gentle focus. The craving for approval, the Buddha began, his voice steady, is like chasing the wind, never grasping what cannot be held. He gestured toward the bustling market, where voices clamored for attention. Here, approval is bought and sold, but does it truly satisfy the one who seeks it? The disciples followed his gaze to a vendor selling sand-filled jars labeled as gold dust. A few curious buyers hovered near, examining the jars with hopeful expressions. Observe them, the Buddha said. Their desire clouds their judgment. They see treasure in what is only sand. Master, another disciple interjected, if approval is like sand, then why does it hold such power over our hearts? The Buddha smiled faintly, his expression neither dismissive nor indulgent. Approval feels like gold when received, yet it dissolves like sand under the weight of time and scrutiny. He knelt and picked up a handful of sand, letting it trickle through his fingers. This sand cannot cling to me, nor can I bind it to myself. It passes, as approval must pass. The disciples watched, their faces reflecting a mix of understanding and doubt. But Master, the young woman asked again, her voice tinged with sorrow, what if their approval is the only joy we know? The Buddha stood, his movements deliberate, his posture steady. Their joy is fleeting, a shadow cast by your own longing, not a reflection of your truth. He gestured toward the sky, where a bird soared freely despite the crowd below. Be like the bird, fly not for the applause of the watchers, but for the freedom of the skies. The disciples gazed upward, the bird's effortless grace capturing their attention. One disciple spoke up, his tone uncertain, How do we know when we are free from this need for approval? The Buddha turned to him, his expression warm yet piercing. Freedom comes when their words neither lift you nor weigh you down. When you remain unmoved. He stepped closer to the vendor, observing the jars that gleamed in the sunlight. Even the brightest sand cannot fool the discerning eye. Train your heart to discern, not to crave. The disciples nodded, the metaphor sinking deeper into their thoughts. A child approached the Buddha, his hands clutching a simple wooden toy. The child's eyes sparkled as he held the toy up, seeking approval. The Buddha knelt, his gaze kind and unassuming. "This toy is enough," he said, "because your joy in it is pure, untainted by others' opinions." The child smiled, his face radiant, and ran back to his parents with newfound confidence. The disciples observed the interaction, its simplicity more profound than any elaborate teaching. Purity of joy, the Buddha said, rising, is untouched by the expectations of others. It springs from within. Another disciple, a merchant familiar with the city's trade, spoke next. "Master, what of our livelihoods? Approval often ensures survival in a world of constant competition." The Buddha turned toward him, his gaze steady. "Survival born of approval is fragile, a house built on shifting sands. Build on truth instead." He walked toward a tree, its roots deeply embedded in the earth, its branches spreading wide. "See this tree," he said. "Its roots anchor it, its branches reach outward, yet it remains steadfast through storms. Be like this tree." The merchant nodded, his expression thoughtful, as if imagining his own roots and branches. The Buddha placed a hand on the tree's trunk, his touch light yet purposeful. Strength comes not from external validation but from the inner anchor of knowing oneself. The disciples sat quietly, their minds churning with the weight of the teaching. The Buddha's words seemed simple, yet they unveiled truths hidden behind the veil of daily life. The sun began to dip lower, casting long shadows across the square. A musician approached, his lute in hand, his face marked by both pride and uncertainty. "Master," he said, "I play for the joy it brings others. But their silence wounds me deeply. How do I play freely?" The Buddha gestured for him to sit and listened as the musician played a tune, its notes soft and melancholic. When the melody ended, the Buddha spoke, "Your music should spring from your heart, not from the ears of the listener. Play for the skies above." He pointed toward the fading light, where the sky blushed with hues of orange and pink. "Play for the joy of creation, not for the fleeting applause that fades with the sunset." The musician bowed, his eyes glistening, and played again, his notes carrying an unmistakable freedom. The disciples felt the shift in the air, as if the city itself paused to listen. The Buddha closed his eyes, his expression calm, a reflection of the music's purity. When the tune ended, the Buddha stood, his gaze sweeping over his disciples. "Remember this," he said, his voice firm but compassionate. "Approval binds when sought but liberates when given freely without expectation." The disciples bowed, their hearts lighter, their burdens eased. The day turned to night, the market square illuminated by lanterns and stars. The Buddha and his disciples walked toward the outskirts, their footsteps quiet but purposeful. The teachings lingered in their minds, not as lessons to memorize but as truths to live by. As they reached the edge of the city, the Buddha paused, turning to address them one last time. "The world may speak, but your spirit must remain silent, unmoved by its clamor." The disciples nodded, their resolve strengthened by his words. Under the vast, starlit sky, the Buddha closed his eyes, his presence a beacon of tranquility. The disciples sat around him, their questions answered, their hearts open to the night's wisdom. The city of Vaishali seemed to breathe more deeply, its pulse quieted by the truths shared that day. Another day, another path. The Buddha and his disciples reached the serene forest of Rajgir, its silence profound and deep. Towering trees shielded the group, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind as sunlight filtered gently through the canopy. The disciples settled near a clearing, their hearts prepared for the final teaching on the feeling of inadequacy. One disciple, older and wise, spoke softly, "Master, we strive to accept ourselves. Yet doubts linger like shadows in the corners of our minds." The Buddha opened his eyes, his gaze steady, his presence calm as the forest itself. "Doubt," he began, "is born from forgetfulness, a veil that obscures the truth of your existence." He gestured toward a nearby tree, its trunk sturdy, its branches reaching skyward, its roots buried deep within the earth. "Consider this tree," the Buddha said. "It does not question its place, nor does it yearn to be more than it is." The disciples studied the tree, its natural grace seeming to echo the teaching. "Humans," the Buddha continued, "forget their essence, pursuing illusions that promise fulfillment but deliver only emptiness and dissatisfaction." He knelt beside a patch of moss, brushing his fingers lightly over its delicate surface. This moss does not strive to be a flower, yet it plays its part in the harmony of existence. Another day passed, and the Buddha continued to guide his disciples, weaving wisdom into their lives with each word spoken. "Master," Mara asked, "how will we know if we have truly embraced acceptance in our hearts and minds?" The Buddha said, "When fear no longer governs your choices, and peace arises even amidst the uncertainties of life, acceptance has blossomed." The disciples felt the depth of the Buddha's words, finding hope in the promise of peace that acceptance could bring. "Acceptance," the Buddha continued, "is the bridge between suffering and freedom, carrying you over the waters of fear and resistance. The sun does not question its light, nor does it seek approval from the earth it warms," he said. "It simply shines, fulfilling its nature." The disciples followed him, their steps quiet, their thoughts reflective. The Buddha paused near a small stream, its waters flowing gently over smooth stones. "You are like this stream," he said, "complete in your journey, even as you bend, even as you change course." One disciple spoke hesitantly, "Master, the world measures us by standards we cannot escape. How can we remain untouched by its judgment?" The Buddha turned to him, his expression unwavering. "The world's scales are unbalanced, its measures flawed, for they arise from ignorance, not truth." He bent down, cupping his hands to scoop water from the stream. As it flowed through his fingers, he said, "Let judgment pass through you like this water. Do not grasp it, do not resist it, simply let it flow." The disciples watched the water cascade, their hearts stirring with a newfound clarity. Another disciple, a scholar familiar with the teachings, spoke next. "Master, if we embrace impermanence, how do we find meaning in a life destined to change and fade?" The Buddha straightened, his posture steady, his gaze unwavering. "Meaning is not found in permanence but in presence, in the authenticity of each moment." He walked toward a fallen leaf, its surface crinkled with age, its colors muted. "This leaf," he said, "does not lament its fall, for it knows its purpose is fulfilled in its journey." The disciples nodded slowly, the simplicity of the metaphor resonating deeply within their minds. A child, curious and unafraid, approached the Buddha, clutching a small bundle of flowers. "Master," the child said, "why do the flowers wilt even though they are so beautiful?" The Buddha knelt, his eyes meeting the child's with gentle focus. "Their beauty lies not in their permanence but in their essence, in the truth of their being." The child smiled, his curiosity satisfied, and ran back to his family with a lighter heart. The disciples observed, their own questions mirrored in the child's innocence. "Your life," the Buddha said, standing, "is like the flower, beautiful not because it lasts but because it is lived fully." Another disciple, A farmer who had struggled with the weight of his own expectations spoke next. Master, I fear I will never harvest enough to prove my worth. How do I free myself from this fear? The Buddha turned to him, his gaze kind yet firm. Your worth is not measured by your harvest but by the integrity with which you sow. He knelt beside the farmer, placing a hand lightly on the earth. This soil, he said, does not demand praise for yielding crops. It fulfills its purpose quietly, without seeking reward. The farmer nodded, his face softening, the teaching settling into the depths of his heart. The Buddha stood, addressing the entire group with a voice that carried both compassion and conviction. To feel complete, let go of striving, let go of seeking, simply abide in the present, where your essence resides. The disciples sat in silence, their hearts absorbing the wisdom like seeds planted in fertile soil. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the forest floor, the Buddha's presence seemed to grow even more profound. The disciples knew they were not receiving mere answers but timeless truths, ones that would guide them through life's uncertainties. The Buddha turned his gaze toward the sky, its colors shifting from orange to pink to deep indigo. The heavens do not seek to impress the earth, yet they shine as they are, whole in their vastness. He gestured for the disciples to rise, his movements deliberate yet light. They stood, their footsteps quiet as they followed him toward a clearing where the stars began to appear. The Buddha paused, his gaze sweeping across his disciples with an expression of quiet conviction. You are not incomplete, you are not lacking, you are existence itself, whole in every moment. The disciples bowed deeply, their hearts unburdened, their spirits lifted by the truth they had received. The forest seemed to exhale, its breath mingling with the newfound tranquility that enveloped the assembly. The teachings of the Buddha were not just words but realizations that would endure. Under the vast, starlit sky, the Buddha entered into meditation, his presence a beacon of peace and clarity. The disciples remained near him, their questions answered, their hearts open to the night's wisdom. The forest of Rajgir stood silent and timeless, a witness to the teachings shared that day. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.